kapew, kapew. We are back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and today's reflection, something that I've been reflecting on quite a bit in this last week, is on change. There's that old quote from John Henry Newman. It says, "To live is to change, and to change often is to live perfectly." To live is to change. We can get so rooted in our routines, our identities, craving for consistency, that to change, to shift, shake up that consistency for ourselves, for those around us, there's such a strong resistance there. But to live is to change. Change, like conflict on one level, is harmony on another. We think we inherently don't want conflict, but that's what your white blood cells are doing right now as we speak to fight off an infection. And that conflict on one level leads to harmony, your health on another. Harmony requires conflict, and change, much like life does, requires it. To live is to change. Whenever I notice a resistance coming up of something is changing, oh, this is different. Oh, I don't want this to change. Oh no, now I'm going to have to explain that inconsistency, explain this new thing. I'm going to have to reorient myself around. It could be travel. It could be the thought of needing to move to a different city. It could be a business idea you started, sunk hundreds of thousands of dollars into, your money, friends and family money, and investor money, and it's not working out. And it's a lot like what this philosophy says about karma. Karma, which means service or action, and depending on the context, it is so beautiful because it takes these concepts that anyone can nod in their head and say, yes, I get that. Oh, I resonate with that. Can think about them, reflect on them, feel like, oh, I'm starting to understand this. And then go out into the real world, act or serve, and have a 2-year-old show them just how little control they have over their mind. Karma is said it's like a fire that heats us up to show us where our work lies. It's like a fire that heats us up to show us where our work lies. It's the same for change. Karma might be self-initiated, and oftentimes change is self-initiated, but sometimes it is world-initiated. In the last episode, we talked about not taking anything for granted. It's a recurring theme. It's one of the daily practices of Vedanta. And when we have resistance to change, that resistance shows us an attachment we have. Because the resistance wouldn't be there if that attachment wasn't there. You don't resist, or I certainly don't resist, the end of a really hard workout class. I don't resist the end of a really hard conversation. I resist the end of an amazing surf session. I resist the end of a really fun day out with the kids. I resist the end of playing music. And to live in a world where we are resistant to change itself, where we inculcate ourselves with the same people, same things, same routines, rarely ever going out to explore outside of those things, is dangerous. Because it's a resistance to life itself. And even more, it's a resistance to improvement. As the quote goes, to live is to change. And to change often is to live perfectly. Your ambition at this stage perhaps is the first episode you're tuning into. It might not be to live perfectly. But what this timeless, ancient philosophy tells us is that is your natural birthright to live perfectly. Not just an aim to have, but your natural state is to live perfectly. And if this is that first time you are hearing this, and any of this episode resonates with you to where you tune into another, feel free to start with the intro episode where I give the breakdown of the whole philosophy in 15 minutes. But if multiple points start resonating with you from this timeless philosophy, then it is only a matter of time before your ambition does rise to live perfectly. To where the awareness within you rises to recognize, oh, that is possible. And that is the natural state. That is the only aim, the only goal worth having, because it is the only one that will satisfy you. And inherent in that goal is to cultivate immense comfort with changing often. And it is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing to change often. My wife and I, Cheney and I, we picked up surfing in our mid-30s. I got serious about making music, nights and weekends, of course, but got serious about getting really good at it. Nearly 40. Started making these episodes, turning my startup business podcast into a philosophy podcast. And none of it has felt that consistent with, I think for others around me, has seen it as very consistent with startup founder or startup investor. But as Gandhi once said, our commitment should be to truth, not to consistency. And the road to truth, it is all change. And we're told the road to truth within this philosophy is through cultivating non-attachment. All the things that we're gripping, clinging to. Can't imagine changing. Can't imagine being without. If we ease up, let go, recognize that not only can we let go, can we do without it, but we thrive when we do let go. The difference between hanging on to every branch of a stream as you float down versus being in that inner tube, just floating down in cosmic wonderment. Staying put, that's actually what requires immense energy to grip on so tight. But accepting, cultivating a comfort, a love of change, that is freedom. It's liberation. It's hands behind your head, cruising down the river on that inner tube. Knowing that even in dark moments in life caused by change, that suffering could lead to salvation in a way that we, myself included, we have no idea just how beneficial that change can be. I mentioned this in the podcast before. I remember praying for a company I was running in my 20s, praying that we'd get a funding round done so we would get to keep doing what we're doing. And then breaking down, crying in my parents-in-law, one of their bathrooms, just breaking down crying when it was clear everything that I wanted was not going to happen. And it was clear that a big change was about to happen after running this company for 6 years and it essentially failing. And Now I look back and I think, God, that was the greatest thing that ever happened in the last decade of my life. Thank God for all of the shifts in my life that have happened because of that change. Thank God for change. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you tomorrow.